Okay, so first off, I apologize for the quality of this video, but um, my beloved laptop unfortunately seems to have bit the dust, so I'm having to record this on a much lower resolution webcam. So anyway, I wanted to make a video where I told you about a few simple recipe ideas that I came up with years and years ago when I was in college, so that I could eat well but on a budget. And this is something that I tried to do throughout college and throughout my adult life, because it's good to have things that are not just pre-packaged, pre-made, where you're really not doing any serious kind of cooking. And this stuff doesn't really involve any serious kind of cooking, but it does make something that's a little bit higher quality and is a lot cheaper for the amount that you can make. So to start, there's a very simple one that is macaroni and cheese. Now, it's very easy to go with the boxed stuff, or the Easy Mac that you can just make in the microwave. But why bother, is my question, with that kind of stuff that's full of preservatives, and preservatives are usually oil, salt, and all that kind of stuff that's really not so good for you. And there are easier ways to make better food in basically about the same amount of time, and more satisfying food that's more of a meal at that point. And they actually do recommend macaroni and cheese as a meal if you're going out to eat with children, because a lot of the meals that they have for little kids are high in calories, high in fat, high in carbs, and not very healthy. And the one that in an article that I read just recommended mac and cheese at every single place they went to. TGI Fridays, Applebee's, Bob Evans, all these different places. It was hard to find something on the kids menu that was actually okay for your kids to eat without them packing on a lot of pounds. And unless the kid is very active, if the kid has any kind of a sedentary lifestyle, you might end up with a child with weight problems if they get used to eating like that. Another good example of that is getting just milk, not chocolate milk or anything like that, just regular plain milk instead of soda for kids. There was a time when parents really had to push in order to get some regular plain milk for kids, and instead they might have to have water. Now, personally, I enjoy a good glass of soda, or can or bottle of soda if I'm out and I want a treat. But I have met kids who would not drink water. They hated the taste of water. It didn't have any flavor. And I would honestly say to the kids, if they were that insistent, if they were saying, "I'm thirsty," and I was like, "Here's some water," and they were like, "I don't want water," then you must not be thirsty. Because this would be out in the middle of the afternoon, in the hot sun, outside, and it's a simple enough equation. If you are thirsty, you need water. And sometimes if you're hungry, you need water. So, fresh, clean drinking water is the best way to go, right? Some kids won't put up with that because they're so used to having sugary, sweet drinks and things like that. And the fact is, you should be drinking water instead of those things. It's not good to saturate your body with sugar or sugar substitutes. Anyway, so moving on. My stupidly simple macaroni and cheese dish is one that I came up when I was serving in AmeriCorps, because for a while in AmeriCorps, even though when you're in AmeriCorps you automatically qualify for food stamp assistance, one of the things about food stamp assistance is sometimes it takes a little while to get, especially if you have never received it before, you don't know how to get it, you don't have the ability to get over to the food stamp office to get your EBT thing set up. And it took me a while to arrange that. I actually had people from my AmeriCorps supervisors promise to help hook me up with food stamps, file the paperwork or whatever, and they never did. So I ended up having to go completely around them, relying on people helping me from my site that I was working at. And eventually I was able to get that all squared away and start buying good food regularly instead of going hungry, parsing out my meals, suffering depression, suffering from lack of sleep due to hunger pain, all that kind of thing. So I was able to buy, decent pasta. I would get, some relatively good quality American cheese that didn't have as much fat in it, or at least as much oil, which is basically what fat is. So it ended up being okay, and I was able to get some Laughing Cow spreadable cheese. Now, I do not normally endorse brands, but in this case you just want a soft, creamy kind of cheese that has a little bit of sharpness to it. So in this case the Laughing Cow ends up being the preferred one. You can find other cheeses like that, but the Laughing Cow is the most easily available. And you can use the garlic and herb, the French onion, or anything like that if you like that savoriness in your macaroni and cheese, and it'll be really good. Just don't give it to the dog, because garlic or onions are bad for dogs. So anyway, and like I said, this is the stupidly simple way to do it. There are two ways, of course, you can boil the pasta. One is you can boil it on a stove or a hot plate in a saucepan or a pot full of water, and then you drain it. That's the first step, and that's really the most complicated part about it. If it's in a microwave, usually 5 to 7 minutes in a microwave-safe container will work to get the water hot enough. You just have to get the water to a certain temperature to where it'll soak into the pasta and start to soften it and cook it. You can give it a little gentle stir, and you want to let it sit in that hot water for a good enough, long enough time until it reaches the right temperature. If it's in a pot, it's a little easier to do because it's in the open. In a microwave, you're going to have to use oven mitts to take out the microwave-safe container. Obviously, you want to be careful because you're handling very hot water and you can easily burn yourself. But once you've drained it, that's really the most dangerous and technical and complicated part. If you're using a stove or a microwave, obviously you have to be careful of the heating element or the flame. So, moving on from that, once you have the pasta boiled, that's the most complicated part. Move on to a microwave-safe dish large enough to hold the pasta with a little bit of room. You take your Laughing Cow, and if you're making a serving for one, you'll use just one wedge. If you're making a serving for, if you're making a very large portion of it, you can use two. I don't recommend going beyond that. And then you break up the wedge of soft Swiss cheese into little chunks, and you just put that in among the noodles. You can use elbow macaroni, shells, rotini, farfalla, any of those, right? So once you've done that, take your American cheese slices and basically lay them on top like a blanket. Then microwave for about 2 minutes. You can add black pepper once it's done microwaving, and give it a gentle stir with a spoon. I don't recommend a fork, because you don't want to accidentally spear and cut the noodles. You just want to give it a stir and kind of fold in the cheeses. You can add black pepper at that point, before or after you stir, to lend a little extra zest to it. I like it that way. So yeah, you stir, and it should be hot enough that it melts and envelops the noodles. And what you have then is a macaroni and cheese that's as good, I think, as anything you can get in a restaurant. You didn't really have to do any work in order to make it, which you shouldn't have to. You don't even have to really watch it in order to make sure that it's doing anything. And you can easily make that for yourself, for a child. It cools down quickly, and it is immensely satisfying. You can make it if you're single, you can make it if you're married, you can make it for a quick lunch. You actually only need to have the pasta boiled, and then you can just put the cheese on top and then pop it in the microwave when you get to work at lunchtime, and stir it up and then eat it, and you have fresh, hot, ready to go mac and cheese. And that's my version of Easy Mac. It does require a couple of extra steps of preparation, but for what you get compared to what you get from those boxed packaged mixes, it's a million times better. It's actually what I had today, and you can see this is the package. This is the container that I used. This was just some leftover pasta from some pasta we made. You can see that the cheese really does melt and covers the bowl very effectively, just like if it were cheese sauce made for a restaurant, or a mix, or a frozen macaroni and cheese dinner. So I mean, this is not something that's incredibly complicated to make. It requires 2 or 3 steps and you're done. You can pair it with a salad. You can have it with fruit. It works well with fish or chicken. And I'll actually cover a chicken dish in my next video. So that's it for this little one. Bye bye.